Hi everyone, it's Matthew. Welcome back to my channel. This time we're doing things a little differently. So we're going to be talking about the DCEU recast and the Marvel TV show changes. I'm joined by Kyle. Please introduce yourself to the audience.
Hello, everybody. My name is Kyle Arking. I'm a YouTuber. I review movies, TV shows, and you can find my videos on my YouTube channel, Kyle Arking.
I'll leave a link to his YouTube channel in the description below. Show him some love. He's amazing. Thank you so much for joining me. And we are going to talk about, we have a lot to talk about actually. Let's start with the DCU first. We have been told by will be recasted. We already know. We already talked about Superman on this channel before. Let's talk about the people being recast. Like the Flash to me is the biggest one that has to be redone. What do you think about them recasting everything?
Well, I think the thing is here is we're talking about the end of an era when it comes to DC. We're talking about now essentially an entire full scale reboot that DC has needed to have for many, many years. They they should have done this after Justice League, because Justice League, there's no way that you release a
Yeah,
Justice League movie and it performs as poorly as it did. I think that it is almost an anomaly that that happened, and it it was because the audiences just were not attached to what Warner Brothers and DC were putting out film wise. A lot of the audiences were divided on Man of Steel. They were not happy with Batman v Superman. And by the time that wasn't enough to sustain them to keep going to see Justice League. And it's a real shame because I am a fan of those movies and I do think that they did a great job, but you cannot argue the fact that audiences were not pleased. Like you can have like a segment of your audience unhappy with what's going on, but when you have half of the audience, very at odds with each other, it's not a good look. And this is why Marvel has worked so well, despite people have issued their own grievances towards the MCU. The majority of people are still very much into the MCU. Even now, when like you can say that the MCU has had its highs and lows, even now the MCU, I would say, is still, still thriving. But DC needs a reboot. And when we get to like recasting, what's interesting about the recast is there are still going to be actors that return. So we're still going to see Viola Davis come back as Amanda Waller, John Cena come back as Peacemaker, but these are not our main heroes. These are not Batman. These are not Superman. These are not what looks to be Wonder Woman. Um, and this is why I think we are starting to see them really change, because we're starting to see them actually say to themselves, we need to do something different. We need to make a new DC universe. And I think that is honestly the best route to go. Because I don't think that right now, where we're at, I just don't think it's sustainable. Like, we're seeing many of these DC films, The Flash, Shazam, um, Black Adam, and Blue Beetle not making a profit. And that is something that needs to change. And thankfully, as James Gunn has stated, Blue Beetle will, Cholo Mariduena will return as Blue Beetle. And that is a huge deal because he was great in Blue Beetle. I really enjoyed Blue Beetle. And I think there's a lot of potential there to continue the franchise. But when it comes to the other movies and other shows, it's just not sustainable because the audience has essentially given up on the DC universe. They don't want to go and see a movie with Ben Affleck as Batman. They don't want to go and see a movie with Ezra Miller as the Flash, or I mean, I or Henry Cavill as Superman. I mean, it all depends. I personally think it depends on like the writers and who you get on, but like even then, you need to build that trust. And I think that it's a smarter idea to recast, say, Superman in Superman Legacy, get James Gunn on board so you have a new creative team behind and
Yeah.
in front of the camera. And that means what that tells the audience is they don't need to watch the other Superman movies. They don't need to go back and watch Man of Steel and Batman v Superman. They can go and watch a new era of DC movies. And this will also bring in new fans because I think when it comes to comic book movies, one of the most important things is the new audience that is brought on board, whether it is children, whether it's adults, but like specifically when it comes to children, I just think back when I was little. Like I grew up with Christian Bale as Batman and Brandon Routh as Superman. These were new, actors playing these roles, and I was like, oh wow, this is great. But I mean, the thing with Marvel now is you don't really have, you know, like a new actor playing Iron Man, a new actor playing Captain America. You have Anthony Mackie playing Captain America, but he's still continuing from a character that he was introduced as almost 10 years ago. So I think this gives DC an even better chance over Marvel because now we're talking about an entirely new DC universe, an entirely new comic book universe that can bring in new fans that don't have to worry about watching the hundreds of other movies or shows that came before.
I completely agree. I do think that the DCU, who's been struggling, needs this sort of refresh, a chance to start over. And I think the biggest thing too is they need to allow the people behind the screen to have their creative talents out. Like think about Joker that made like $1 billion, even though that's not connected technically. It still did so well with a character that everyone knew already. So I think if they allow the creatives to be creative, I think
I
that
mean,
will help too with the new
the thing
cast.
there is that James Gunn is the head of DC now with the head of the DC studios with his partner Peter Safran. So he is able to formulate this plan and follow it, much like the way that Kevin Feige did with Marvel. However, in this article that mentions the whole DC recasting and such, it does say that they might not have as much power as we believe them to have because in this article it mentioned that like I believe when it comes to the TV side of things, like Max is still or like the
Whatever the heck it's called at this point.
it still has like a different set of
Honestly,
rules. It's I don't know, like that was a little eye catching to me because I was like, oh wait, so are you saying that there's some other authority there at DC that could change things? That gives me a little bit of pause. So
well, if the shows aren't meant to connect to the movies, then yeah, it's fine to have a separate entity run the TV side. If
yeah,
that's their goal, which it sounds like to me from the article, that's the goal to have the TV be separate from the movies.
that
That's what. That's the impression I got from the article.
When we get to the Marvel talk, what's really interesting here is I really hope that whatever is going on at Marvel right now does influence what is going on at DC. Because I will say, though, Peacemaker, that was a great series. And
Exactly.
I think that that had a much better handle on how to make a TV show than some of these Marvel Disney Plus shows lately. So that does give you some hope. But then again, WandaVision, which started out the MCU Disney TV shows, also gave a lot of people hope. And then they kind of went a different path. So hopefully the TV side of things is really well structured, because we have Creature Commandos coming out next year,
Yeah.
which is an animated series. But yeah, I'm really hoping that I think that I personally think this DCU will be really good and really well organized, because I think that they have seen what works and what doesn't work when it comes to comic book adaptations, and I think that they will
Yeah.
nail. The question, though, is will audiences go and see it?
That's the $1 million question. I think it also depends who's playing these superheroes.
Hmm.
I think that's one of the things too. I feel like they're gonna need some young blood in the DCEU. I don't mean like start throwing like young actors in there, but I feel like Ben Affleck's Batman is I do want to say too old for younger audiences, if you know what I mean.
Hmm.
Like I can't see people being drawn to Ben Affleck's Batman anymore.
I mean,
Like
that's they get Robert Pattinson to play Batman, and
that I guarantee you would boost up the DCU.
but
Guaranteed.
I personally I think that should stay separate. Like, I definitely don't think they should mix in Matt Reeves' world with the DCU. I think, though, when you want to talk about young blood, that is when we talk about the Flash, and I would say Wonder Woman,
Yeah.
because um it sucks because, like, women in the industry have a hard time getting roles, especially when they get older, compared to men. And like, I really hope that, like, I believe if they recast Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman, it's not going to be because of her age. It's going to be because they don't want to have another connection to the DCEU. They want to
Yeah.
start fresh.
And
And yeah.
I think that's exactly what's happening. I think Flash being recast is obviously a smart call. They should have done that a long time ago before they even thought of the movie, but that's another conversation we can have.
Mhm.
I also I don't mind them recasting Wonder Woman, but I want to see who they get. Like that's the one thing I'm most curious about out
I,
of all the
I
superhero
I
recasts.
don't know whether you think this, but I wonder what you think of when I say that I think the next Wonder Woman might be one of the most important castings when it comes to superhero movies
I
ever.
would second that. I would second that.
I think another one would be the Fantastic Four. That would
Yeah,
be a good one, but
which we'll know right after the actor strike is
yeah,
over.
but with Wonder Woman, because and I said this on one of the Twitter Spaces I was on, and I got a lot of derision for it, but I still stand by this. I think Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman is the Christopher Reeve of the modern, like, superhero generation. Um I mean, you could probably say Christian Bale's up there too, but when we talk about, or Tobey Maguire as Spider-Man,
Yeah,
but talk about like an actor that not only defines this role, but like now when you see Gal Gadot, in any movie or show, like, you think of her as Wonder Woman, and the way that, like, this is the first live action Wonder Woman. It was a huge cultural sensation, that first movie. It's like like she embodies Wonder Woman when she plays Wonder Woman, and it's like something that like I personally, when I'm watching Gal as Wonder Woman, I can't think of anyone else playing Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
And of course, like to kids, like they'll probably see Gal Gadot and like, oh, that's Wonder Woman and all that. Now you have to follow that up, and that's going to be hard because, like, you can say what you want about whether Gal Gadot's a really good actress or not. I think that she's a good actress, but like, it's one thing to be a great actor, but to actually make a new version of this character and follow up a
Yeah,
version
exactly.
many people love is very difficult, and it's something that really has hurt every actor. So, like, if you think of Christopher Reeve plays Superman. There has still not been a Superman that has had the same level of love that Christopher Reeve had. Like, if you look at Henry Cavill, Brandon
Yeah.
Routh, um,
Nicolas Cage, like,
and I mean, like any of them, like there's still Christopher Reeve. He's like the the top of the mountain Superman. Now,
exactly.
Batman, Batman's a little bit different because I mean Michael Keaton, he was up there, but then Christian Bale, like then you had like Val Kilmer didn't really work for people. George Clooney did not work for people, and then Christian Bale comes in, and Christian Bale is now like I would argue he's like the
Yeah.
top of the mountain, and now it was hard for Ben Affleck, and I think Robert Pattinson worked, but I've still seen some people say Robert Pattinson doesn't really work for me as Batman. So like it's still hard. And Spider-Man's the same thing. Tobey Maguire, and
Yep.
then Andrew did not have that factor that got people to really say, "Oh, this is Spider-Man." But now you have Wonder Woman. The question is, what will they do? Because the Flash, like I mean, in all due respect to Ezra Miller did not make that character, a
Not
character
even close.
that is, beloved by everybody. Like a lot of people, like people didn't even show up to see the movie. So like you don't have that. So Flash is, I think, a very easy one to get because if you get a really good actor that embodies the role, that works. But Aquaman too, he's a little bit hard because Jason Momoa was such a great Aquaman.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I don't know what they would do because I personally I think what they should do with a new Aquaman. I want to see, and this is this sounds silly, but I want them to go back to the original, short hair Aquaman, no beard Aquaman, because I really do like Momoa's interpretation, but there is a bit of a difference there in terms of the Aquaman I'm used to seeing in comics, and then Jason Momoa's Aquaman, which is more like the Aquaman I grew up with in the Justice League cartoon, and in the later Aquaman runs, which I really loved, where he has a beard and he has a hook for a hand. But
Yeah.
like I want a short-haired Aquaman. Like I want to see what that's like. So, I mean, it's also you got to get actors that are also willing to make multiple films because like I don't know what David Corenswet's contract is like for Superman Legacy, but I have to imagine he's probably on there for at least like 3 films.
Yeah.
Like, you know.
And I think that's what makes it harder casting superheroes nowadays. It's like some people just don't want to commit to 3 movies anymore.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be the challenge going forward is how do you cast someone, but yet respect their wishes of only wanting to do 1 movie at a time.
And that's why they're also recasting, because they know that we're not Henry Cavill back to play Superman for another 4 or 5 movies. For all we know, I mean, those movies might not be made.
Yeah.
Ben certainly isn't going to make 4 or 5 more Batman films.
Nope.
Gal probably would. Like, I think Gal would make as many Wonder Woman movies as are possible, but it's just, I think it's just not sustainable. And you really need to recast, and you really need to change up the look of that universe because, um, like, I think one of the problems with what happened after Snyder left was they took these characters, and of course, it was I think at the time it probably was a smart move to say let's go in a new direction, like let's make Wonder Woman more colorful, let's make
Yeah.
Aquaman more comic booky and such, but it did kind of messed with those characters because those characters weren't these were actors designed to play characters that then got changed to become different characters. So like the Flash, and I have to rewatch the Flash movie, but when I watched the Flash, it did not feel like the Flash from Justice League or Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Yeah.
It feel like it did not feel like that same character. Like they messed it up. They messed with it a bit, and I think that was a little bit weird because, like, can you imagine if, like, when you're watching the MCU, most of the characters seem very consistent with each other. They
Yeah.
continue on, but there isn't that massive tonal shift that you will get. Like, imagine if, like, Captain America then became more of a, stumbling buffoon or something of that such. It feels weird. And um, I think we saw a little bit of that with Thor Love and Thunder, where Love and Thunder comes out, and I think that did push a little bit of Thor. Like, he wasn't exactly like the same Thor that um, I thought he was from the other movies, but there's still, like, I still will say, like, there is a consistency with the MCU compared to DC. And I think the DCU will have that consistency, and it will keep these characters, focused.
I agree with that. I'm curious to see about the casting. Do you think that they didn't mention the Suicide Squad, but I could see that being recasted too.
I was just thinking about that actually. So
Because
Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn, she's one of the biggest question marks because I could have sworn I saw James Gunn say somewhere that she would return, but I don't know.
but she has so many movies already, like I just can't see that happening.
I wonder, would they bring Harley Quinn
Okay.
and recast the Joker?
They could. They realistically could.
They've definitely done a thing now where Harley Quinn is separate from the Joker.
Yeah.
They moved her out of that toxic relationship,
Which I think it was smart.
and they really put her with Poison Ivy. Um like that's kind of like now her soulmate in a sense. So they've given her Poison Ivy. I would die to get a Margot Robbie Harley Quinn movie with Poison Ivy.
I
Like
would do that.
we need that. If anything, that could have been what Birds of Prey was, but like we need we need Poison Ivy with Harley Quinn, and I think that movie, if honestly, if they made that movie, I do think that would make money.
I
Um,
would too.
I think a lot of people would love to see that, but no, I don't know what they would do with the Joker because, like, you need the Joker. Like, you might not want to have the Joker with Harley Quinn, but you need the Joker in this universe.
I agree.
And if you're getting a new Batman,
Then you need a new Joker.
probably getting a new Joker.
That's what I think. I have a casting choice if they do recast Harley Quinn. Anya Taylor Joy as Harley Quinn. Just
I wonder how that would go.
I don't think they would, but that's if they're recasting Harley Quinn, that's my number one choice.
I don't think that will work because I think Batman's older.
Well, it also depends on who they cast for Batman too. There's like so many question marks then.
Exactly. I think it's dependent on Batman because Batman right now what we know from this DCEU or DCU
Yeah.
father, a father of a kid that's probably like 10 years old, well, maybe 12 years old, probably about 12 years old or
Yeah.
so, Damian Wayne. Um, so I would say he's probably in his 30s to 40s at
So,
this.
yeah, it'll be interesting to see who they cast for that role. There's definitely too many possibilities.
I think in the Batman Brave and the Bold, Talia al Ghul will be in it,
Yeah.
and Ra's al Ghul will be in it,
Yeah, I would agree with that.
and that's where I think. Oh boy, because I mean, I actually really did enjoy Marion Cotillard as Talia al Ghul in Dark Knight Rises, but oh boy, that I mean, I, we if you want to talk about really comic accurate version, that I think that they could really get into, because like we still need like the way that they've depicted Ra's al Ghul throughout the many shows, we still, I feel like, are awaiting a Ra's al Ghul that is truly, like in the comics. Especially, I want to see him wearing full green outfit. Like they tried that in, I believe both Arrow and Gotham did it, but it was like really dark green. It didn't have that
Yeah.
look to it. So I really want to see that. So, but yeah, Harley Quinn, because Margot, like Gal as Wonder Woman, Margot is like, she is Harley Quinn. Like, I mean, Lady Gaga is gonna play her.
Yeah, but
Different version, it's
yeah.
not like, I don't know what they'll do. Like, that's a huge question. That's a huge question.
I agree. I'm excited to see what happens. Well, let's talk about Marvel now.
Okay.
Because after the DC news and all the fiasco that came out, Marvel's like, wait, our turn. We have more chaos to throw. Can we do that? Can we do that?
Oh my dear.
Yeah, exactly. Let's talk about the Daredevil series. Then we'll get into specifics about what they're doing. They pretty much fired everyone, pretty much, on the creative side. And basically, Kevin Feige is like, we're starting over. So,
Now, what's funny about this is that this isn't the first time a Daredevil production has been rearranged, because the original Daredevil series on Netflix had a massive change in its showrunners. Originally, Drew Goddard was going to,
yeah, I remember that.
the Netflix series, and then Stephen DeKnight came in, and that was a huge shift. And Drew Goddard's like ideas still sprinkled in throughout, but it was Stephen DeKnight that came in and really, I think, helped plant that show into what a lot of people love it today. Because I mean, Drew Goddard set the foundation, but um, Stephen DeKnight helped carry the torch. And I think I find it so fascinating that it's almost like history's repeating itself with this Daredevil show now with a completely new team. Um, it's so sad to hear that all these writers and people that have worked on it have been fired from the
Yeah.
project. It's also kind of baffling to hear that, like, some of the parts, like, if you read some of the article about it, it mentions how, like, they were leaning more towards making the show a lawyer procedural than making it actually like a crime fighting Daredevil series like the first 3 seasons of Daredevil were.
Yeah.
On the surface, that is interesting, because I'm like, oh wait, so it will just be about Matt as a lawyer. Therefore, it could kind of be like Andor and be more character focused and what's going on in that sense. But then it says like Daredevil, he doesn't wear his suit until episode 4 of the series. So I mean that would I think work for a show that isn't in its like if it's like a first season, he doesn't get his suit till episode 4, okay. But for a show that is based on 3 other seasons where he has his suit,
Yeah.
in season 3 that he kind of has a similar type of trajectory where he stops being Daredevil for a bit, then he comes back. It's like it makes you wonder, what they were thinking there. It also was an 18 episode series, so I mean, maybe him not putting a suit on till episode 4 wasn't that big of a deal because there were still, 14 episodes left to go. But I find it really interesting, like the details about that show, like that. It's very interesting.
Yeah. Like, I'm not sure if audiences would want to see like another like a crime type, like a lawyer type series, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So I can understand Marvel's like we have to change it. Same time, firing everyone's just insane in my opinion. They could have just replaced the showrunners, redid the scripts. Like that's what I would have done rather than fire everyone.
It really sounds like I saw some people mentioning this on Twitter how this could also be affecting. This is a result of the strikes themselves because the strikes have now like made it necessary to have showrunners on
Yeah,
shows. So this is quite possibly not as much of a Marvel decision as it is a WGA decision. And we could be seeing, which will be a good thing because it will mean that some writers get way more pay than they're usually getting. But I think, and I mean, once again, it's incredibly really awful to hear about so many people being fired. But I will say that the light side of this news is that it does look like that Marvel is correcting their mistakes because it definitely sounds like when it comes to Daredevil, this is their. I mean, I personally think their most important property is Fantastic Four right now, but I think Daredevil is really like their most important property that is a continuation of something else. So you could also say the same about Deadpool, but Daredevil is based on a highly acclaimed series. You're bringing back a number of the cast members, including John Bernthal as the Punisher. And you need to make sure that show is great because if that show is not great, you just know that all these people on the internet are going to be like, this is nothing like the Netflix series. They butchered Daredevil. And people are probably going to stop watching. Like, I just know, like, I have a number of friends that have stopped watching the MCU shows. And I had to get them to watch Loki. I said, guys, you got to watch Loki. It's great. And it is. I love season 2 so far. But people are getting tired of it because they have not been firing off on all cylinders when it comes to
no,
the side. Moon Knight, I think a lot of people are unhappy with. She-Hulk did not get, I think, the amount of love that they were hoping it would get. And I would say that Secret Invasion is their worst production they've
by
done
far.
for TV wise. It was a disaster. And this article also goes into how much of a disaster it was. Like, did you read the stuff about how the original writer of Secret Invasion like left the project, and then what they did was they took his screenplays, and when they made the show they just changed everything in post-production. It's like that is what we're seeing with their TV side, where it's first off they have an issue with trying to make it TV. It's not, in my eyes right now, it's not TV. They are making 6-hour movies,
Pretty much.
and they're just cutting them into little segments and pieces, and then parts of those pieces in the process. Because if you've seen some of the deleted scenes, Hawkeye has like 15 to 20 minutes of deleted scenes. And it's like, and like, they're not just like, there's an entire deleted scene. It's like 5 minutes long of Hawkeye that's about him and his mother. Like, we're not just talking about a scene that, oh, maybe it was an unnecessary little snippet. They have like a whole backstory to Hawkeye himself that they did not show, like they did not show in this show. And I personally think it was a really good thing that they could have included, but they didn't do it. And I think that we're seeing a lot of their shows now. They are going through these problems where they're, and they said in this article, they're taking film executives, they're taking people that work on films and having them work on these projects. But that is not what you do. When you want to make TV, you get people that know TV, and you get those people to make TV shows.
Wow, imagine that.
Imagine that. Uh,
I mean, they've done some good things, like obviously WandaVision, and I really like Miss Marvel, but I think their problem is they focus so much on miniseries and like just working on miniseries that connects to their movies rather than actual TV shows. And I think that's why they've been flopping.
yeah, that's what they were talking about, because they were saying that um, now they're going to move away from just limited series, and they're going to move into making serialized television. They're going to make multiple seasons. And one of the quotes they said was that we want like our audience to be attached to these characters and to see them continue, not not to see whether it sets up, a future movie. Because that is what it feels like. It feels like a number of these projects are just there to introduce a new character that will be revealed in a movie. It doesn't feel like they are actually coming up with TV shows that tell engaging stories that will sustain itself for about 3 or 4 seasons. I mean, WandaVision is a show that I think they could have made a second season. I think that WandaVision, if they made a second season of this show, um, you could have maybe expanded upon the consequences of what she did in the show. You could have really gone into, more of her learning stuff as a witch, and then maybe they could have done a Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. But like Miss Marvel, Miss Marvel's a show that I want a season 2 really badly because I love the characters and I love the world. And we do see some of that world in the Marvels, but I don't think we're going to see all of it. And I think that I want to see, like even some of the shows that I wasn't the biggest fan of, like a She-Hulk, I would like to see a second season because there's potential there. All these shows have potential. They just need to, I think, make second seasons so that they can build upon them.
It's just, again, their strategy for so long is just like, it has to connect, it has to connect. And it comes to a point and it's like, the audiences, they don't want to see that anymore. Like, the audience don't want to see movies that are just connectors. They don't want to see TV shows that are just connectors. And I think that's the bigger problem that Disney's having.
Yeah.
And they have to change that. If they want their TV shows to be successful, they have to change, and I think that's what we're finally getting to.
And also, like, I feel some of their shows, when it comes to this whole season 2 mindset, it does let them, I mean, like, if we're talking about Emmy consideration, awards consideration at least, like, you can have a show running on for many years and it can continue to get awards and it can continue to get watching. That's what I think that they are lacking, because like if you look at Loki season 2, it premiered with some of the best ratings they've had, and it's because people love the first season, they went back to watch the second season.
Exactly.
When it comes to the movies were like this. Like Marvel movies back in the day, when you would watch Iron Man 1, Iron Man 2, Iron Man 3, Captain America 1, Thor 1, Thor 2. you would continue to see the stories progress. But we're not seeing that on TV. We're seeing, that one WandaVision, and then we don't see a second season. We see Falcon Winter Soldier. We don't see a second season. And 6 episodes, that's not enough time for us to really connect with these characters, especially when they're not even an hour long. Like, the episodes are like sometimes 30 minutes long. You're not connect like, and they need to understand. I think they're understanding it now. Movies are not television, and television is not a movie. And when you are making these mediums, they're very different, so therefore you have to go about a different approach. So you can't make a movie and then turn it into a TV show. You can't make a TV show and really turn it into a movie. You gotta figure out a difference. And even Star Wars, Lucasfilm has had this issue with like Obi-Wan Kenobi, which I think should have been a movie, but they made
Exactly.
a TV series.
They have a lot of problems, Disney, and they have to start fixing it. And I think that's going to take years in order to get back to where they were.
Right now, they are definitely, I think, in terms of quality,
They're on the right track again, but
yeah.
can they keep it?
But like right now, though, before they do change this, I will say I believe Disney right now, Disney Plus, is one of the least like beloved shows in terms of their quality, because like you have HBO, you have Netflix, you have Amazon Prime. They're like trailing, like Disney Plus is trailing behind them, because they need, like, Disney is so focused on that movie experience with these shows that they need to change it, and they need to make shows like an Andor that we saw that felt more like traditional television.
Exactly. And I think that's why the Emmys embraced Andor.
Exactly.
Like,
So
like
I'm
Diego Luna got nominated, and that would never happen for a Star Wars series before.
yeah,
Golden Globe, sorry, not Emmy, but still.
I'm really happy. I think that this is, of course, it's really awful to hear people have been fired, but I am really happy to hear that they look like they will improve upon what's going on, because um like that is something that they need to correct. They cannot be at this place, because like Secret Invasion, oh boy, like that show just it I really want to read the original scripts now. I want to see what the show originally was like, because I know a YouTuber that read the screenplay. He read every script for every episode before the show aired, and he said it was far better than what we got.
I know. It's just they need to. They have a lot of stuff to work on, and hopefully they'll get there. I want to see. I love WandaVision, and I hope that that's the quality they need to going forward. Loki season 2 is amazing. Check it out. But yeah, they have a lot of stuff to do, and I have faith that they will.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything else you want to add?
Well, I, I have been reading a really great book on the MCU. It came out yesterday. It's called MCU: The Reign of Marvel Studios.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Have you seen that? It's written by Joanna Robertson, I think Dave Gonzalez. I can't remember the third author, but it is just really fascinating. Like, it's all about, the making behind Marvel, what we know of today. It goes all the way back to, I mean, Stan Lee, but it goes back to when they went bankrupt in 1996, and it really shows you how it, you know, um, has gotten to the point it is today. And it's so crazy, because when I saw all this news about the TV side, I was like, ooh, did they talk about this in the book? And no, it literally just dropped today. So it's a really good read. I highly recommend it.
Definitely check it out. I'll leave a link to the book in the description, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much for joining me, Kyle. This was a lot of fun and a lot of news that dropped.
Yep.
And I'm pretty sure we'll probably do a video after the strike of everything that Marvel decides to drop on us at once.
Oh
my god. I'm already like covering award season and Dance with the Stars, and then now I'm gonna have to worry about all the casting news that's just going to drop in.
Do you think they'll drop it all in one day, or it will be like a weekly thing?
I hope weekly, but knowing my luck, it'll be all in one day.
Right, like I feel it's gonna be like the cast of Fantastic Four, the cast of Superman Legacy, the cast. Like, oh my god!
I definitely think it's going to be DC and Marvel competing with itself on news.
And it'll be good too, because I think it will make a lot of people happy. Whoever they get.
But I think it'll be Marvel first, then DCU, then Marvel, then DCU. They're going to try to one up each other. And that's definitely going to be fun to see. Thank you so much for watching. Comment down below what do you think about all this Marvel and DCE news. Do you have any dream casting for the MCU? I mean the DCU, because God knows they're going to need it now. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.